Freight Masters, here we are again. I do want to apologize to everyone for missing out on doing yesterday's video. I really got caught up on some things, so I do apologize for not making that Monday video, but we're here today. All right. As the title says, trucking companies going bankrupt, less available freight. Oh my. Yeah. I guess unless you've had your head under a rock, we've obviously been seeing quite a upset in the industry, right? Just even inside the past year, you know, we've seen several trucking companies at a minimum go bankrupt. Some of them more or less came back, some did not. And as unpleasant as it is, I do not think that there is any shining light in the near future, for lack of a better word there. I think we're going to start to see more trucking companies file for bankruptcy. We're going to see more trucking companies go completely under. As unfortunate as that is, I already know some owner-operators, they're just staying at home. A large part of this is a result of the rising cost of doing business, the declining freight rates, and the lack of available freight, right? I think we're going to start to see some of the larger trucking companies, which some have already started to let people go, you know, 650 here, 1,200 there, 2,500 there. We'll start to see them go, and with new driver recruiting, they can afford to pay those new drivers less, right? As a way of reducing costs and, you know, sustaining through this hard time. So again, it's very unfortunate, but I do not see any light in the near future, at the end of the tunnel yet. I think that this is probably going to last at least 6 months before we really start to see any kind of hope, I guess. And I hope it doesn't last that long, but I see that right now as like a minimum, just kind of based on, you know, a lot of the data and things like that we're seeing. If I was a owner-operator, small carrier, I would be making sure that I am aligning myself with good brokers or direct shippers. We've talked about that in the past. It still holds true, and in order to weather the storm, I think this is something that carriers are going to need to do. It just sort of makes sense, and I've always felt that way, regardless of what the freight market is doing, because there's always an ebb and a flow to our industry, right? Times are good, times are bad. For this reason, that reason, whatever, it always ends up happening. And we don't always prepare for that as much as we probably should, whether you're a carrier or a broker. For you brokers out there that maybe are new or have been in one niche for a long time, I would suggest diversifying your portfolio. We kind of touched on that a little bit the other day or last week. And I really truly feel like that's, if you're going to survive, you know, the next 6 months, potentially a year, that's what's going to need to happen. We've even seen a lot of those manufacturers, shippers, well, not a lot, but we've seen some already letting go of their drivers. I'm not going to mention names, but they more or less sent out text messages saying, stop where you're at, bring all your equipment back, you're done. And I feel like that's kind of a crappy thing to do. They did it right there during the holidays, and nobody needs to be treated that way. They should have been given a bit more of a heads up on that. Everybody has bills to pay. You know, your average American right now does not have the disposable income for, you know, extravagant things, let alone a lot of people are right now are struggling even with just some of the basic needs, you know, groceries, things like that. And so I think that we're going to see literally the market rates aren't going anywhere but down. In fact, in regards to the available freight right now, there's like on average, right now this will vary, but on average across the board, there are twice as many trucks as there are loads available. And that's one of the factors that is determining the decline in the freight market, right, with the rates. In fact, I've seen that on some of my own lanes, some of my dedicated stuff. I've watched it drop $200 literally since yesterday. And somehow I still have some carriers who have been kind of on again, off again with me on some of my loads. Still try to claim that the freight market is up, but you look at the 3-day average on DAT and it's down. Some of it I've seen come steadily down over the last few weeks, regardless of the holidays. And so I don't know what they're looking at, maybe 90-day or something. But on the 3-day, it has gone down substantially. So I'm not sure what's going to happen there. I have also noticed, at least I can speak for myself, and some others that I've talked to that are brokers, they're getting the amount of available freight that's being offered to them from their customers has declined sharply. In fact, one of my customers, for instance, again, I'm not going to give out the name, normally they'll have 20, 30 loads a day out there available. We averaged about 2 loads today from them. So if I were a broker right now, whether you're new or you've been in the industry for a little while, and you know, we always talk about niches, right? You'll probably hear that elsewhere because to an extent it does hold true. There are riches and niches, but I think with what we're facing in 2023, I think it's very important to diversify your book of business, right? If you're shipping auto parts right now, or maybe you're in produce, or whatever the case may be, I would start focusing on some other areas maybe that you know, you feel comfortable getting into. It might be another area that's sort of similar, that sort of aligns with what you're currently doing. You know, whatever that may be, like I said, whether it's produce, parts, lumber, that kind of thing. I would definitely be doing that. There are companies out there still doing their RFQs or RFPs, sometimes they call them, for the current year. If you guys have any questions, like I said, I do have the live chat open. By all means, hit me up. Not to jump there, but yeah. And for those of you that are brand new and aren't familiar with what an RFP or an RFQ is, it's a request for pricing or a request for quote. And some companies will do that usually within the first quarter, sometimes into the end of the third quarter or fourth quarter of the prior year. It just depends. Each company's a little bit different. You know, you'll see them start to do inventory and all kinds of goofy things, and things typically kind of get fast and furious, but we're not really seeing that like we have historically. So I think this year is going to be, like I said, very interesting, and it's going to be very important to diversify. And I would suggest that potentially even with drivers, owner-operators, small fleet owners, to diversify, you know, the types of freight that you might hold. We've talked in previous videos, a lot of chatter about the upcoming produce season, right? That'll typically kicks off February, March, right in there. I have reached out and tried to even just kind of get some sort of a gauge from some produce shippers. They've been very tight-lipped. I was kind of hoping to do an interview or kind of see where they're saying, because, you know, even in our industry, you know, you look at some different news outlets, a lot of them tend to kind of skew numbers, maybe make things a little bit brighter than what they should be and that kind of thing. So I always try to prefer to go straight to the horse's mouth if I can. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to do that, but I am going to keep working on that. And hopefully maybe I could even have somebody on, right? Have a produce shipper kind of come on and kind of talk to us a little bit. Because I know that a lot of refrigerated carriers sort of rely on the produce market, right? Because we hit that January, February lull after the holidays. And, you know, everybody kind of slows down and sort of catches their breath from the, you know, previous year and everything. And we kind of get ready to jump into it. And like I said, some of the chatter that we've kind of been looking at, things that we've been hearing, it doesn't look well for the produce season as it has historically. So it'll be really interesting. And again, I really hope to kind of get some more solid information on that rather than just some vague chatter, you know, or just what some are saying. So if you guys have any questions, like I said, that's what I'm here for. As always, I'll be more than happy to answer any of your questions. But yeah, I really think that we're going to have to embrace some change this coming year. I really do. And it doesn't matter what side of the table you're on. We're going to have to look at ways of trying to reduce costs, not just obviously any cost, but be, you know, smart costs. Maybe if you're an owner-operator or something that's using a dispatcher, maybe learn to do some of that on your own, you know, and save that percentage or that flat fee or whatever it is that they're charging you. Okay, get yourself aligned with a fuel rewards card. You know, if you're factoring, maybe, you know, look at when your factoring is coming due, and, you know, if it's coming due anytime this year in your future, you know, obviously start shopping around. Right? I think that that's going to be important. And again, whether you're a carrier or a broker, if you're factoring, I think that, you know, looking into that, especially if you're already doing business. I do know for a fact, speaking of factoring, that new brokers right now, a lot of factoring companies will not work with you. I've already gotten word down the line from factoring companies that yeah, they're not accepting any brand new MC brokerages that aren't already currently moving freight, and some of them are going to have minimums. So if you're not already doing at least probably 30, 50K a month, yeah, they're probably not going to. So be prepared for that if you're looking, you know, if you're just now getting into the industry. Insurance costs, I would be shopping around for maybe some cheaper insurance. Obviously, that's a big thing. And again, whether you're a broker, shipper, maybe you're using DAT and truck stop. Now, a little bit biased on my part. I love DAT. You guys know that, right? If you've been watching me for 2 minutes, everybody kind of knows that. I'm a huge fan of DAT. Never really had much success with truck stop. I know some do, but again, not a big fan for various reasons, which I'm not going to get into, or I'll probably be here for an hour talking about why I don't like something. But maybe trim back down to one load board, whichever one that may be, right? Maybe you have a favorite. But yeah, and if you have good drivers out there, for you brokers out there right now, if you have good drivers, reliable drivers who are always on time, they're always communicating with you, they're delivering on time, take care of them as much as you can, right? I've mentioned that in the past, which we should be doing all the time, always, right? But yeah, and oh, before I forget, actually today I had a load that I felt should have been a lot easier to cover than what it was. However, I had the same carrier call me back 8 times before they finally accepted the load. Now, this load was coming out of an area where right now it's outbound freight is expensive. It's cheaper to go back. So I kind of understand that. This load was a partial, and they were wanting nearly full truckload rate for it. Or, I mean, not even like, I think the lowest that they kept kind of coming back down to was about 70% of what the full load rate was. And that just was not going to fly. My customers weren't going to do that. We did eventually kind of come to an agreement on the rate that I think that we were both happy with. My customer probably grumbling about it a little bit, but you know, it is what it is. And there again, and this is going into an area right now, you know, it's wintertime, there's snow there, that kind of thing. It's not the best and easiest place for drivers to go into right now. So from their side of things, I completely understand. From my customer side of things, I completely understand. So it sort of puts me in the middle, obviously. But that's what we're here for, right? As brokers. And I was trying to be fair as much as I possibly could to both sides. And I think inevitably that's what it did. It just took us a little longer to get there than normal. But we will start to see. In fact, I did have a couple other carriers call me shortly after that, ask me what I booked that load for. I told them. They actually tried to undercut that carrier. I'm not going to do it. This is a carrier that they've been on with us for several years now, and why would I do that? And I believe this carrier had a fairly new MC. It was only a couple of months old. I don't know them. It just I wouldn't do it. You know, maybe another broker might, but I don't. That destroys relationships, and when it comes down to me needing them most, when eventually the freight market does flip and goes into the carrier's favor, right? I'm going to need them to remember that and take care of me when I'm taking care of them. So, yeah. Anywho, I guess enough of that rambling. Do you guys, again, have any questions? I'm opening it up about anything. About diversifying your portfolio. Maybe you want to comment something that you're seeing. Maybe you're not seeing what I'm seeing. Maybe you're still getting a ton of freight from your customers, in which case, that's awesome. I'm not saying we're not getting freight. We're obviously getting plenty of freight, but we have seen a couple of customers. One, in fact, I haven't seen a load from them in 2 weeks. So, yeah, I think it's just genuinely a good indication as far as kind of where we're going into 2023, and we're only week and a half in. I didn't think that it was going to happen quite this soon. I had mentioned in a previous video that I felt that this was inevitable and it was going to happen. It just kicked off a little sooner than I had originally anticipated. But okay, guys, I guess if you don't have any questions for me, we'll wrap it up. Again, I do apologize for missing yesterday's video. I just got super tied up, and it wasn't that I forgot or anything like that. I just inevitably ended up running out of time, and it was so late by the time I got everything kind of cleared off that, you know, and everything, that I just didn't have time. And I probably could have done it at like midnight, but I just didn't feel like that was the greatest thing to do. So, but I guess with that being said, I will shut this down. And again, I appreciate you guys, all you subscribers out there, new subscribers, and all the likes. Yeah, appreciate you. As always, be kind to one another. Till next time. Bye-bye now.